Wednesday, July 31st, 2024. This is the Arlington County Board of Equalization hearing. We have 6 cases on the agenda, and let the record show that there's 5 members present, forming a quorum. The first case we're going to hear is RPC 18003-108 at 1310 North Courthouse Road. Mr. Warren, you can start with your 8 minutes to tell us about the property, sir. Mr. Warren, do you have your microphone up?
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
No, now we can. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry. I'm sorry about that. I'll start over. So I'd like to please direct the board's attention to page 3 of 73 on our submitted package. The county's package, I don't know if this was different for you all, but we got a package of roughly 333 pages, and it looked like it was multiple copies of what we had submitted. So you might find several instances of this in the board memo that we received, at least. But on page 190 of 333, you'll find our summary of facts. This property is located at 1310 North Courthouse. It's consistent of 1 tax RPC. It's currently assessed at, and this includes the 3 vacant land parcels, of $103,669,600. And the value we're asking for the board from today is a value of $80,529,700. This property is, you can see on the map, is located in the Clarendon Courthouse submarket of Arlington. It was originally built in 1983. It is classified by the county as having an effective age of 1998. It's a 12-story office building that is consistent of 381,185 square feet of leasable space. As always, I'll also now direct the board's attention to the county's response memo and their I&E summary sheet, which can be found on page 4 of 333. And you can see that.
Can you step out and talk? Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. And you can see that there is a historical trend. They've been supplied 4 years of income and expense data for this property dating back to 2020. This property has suffered from some significant vacancy issues historically over the last couple of years and following COVID. And that is reflective in the overall EGI and total revenue this property has been able to generate, which, as you can see, is significantly lower than it has been in the past 3 years. So one thing as well is that column E, you'll see that the total EGI listed of $11,102,119 for 2023, again, column E, that does not include $2.6 million of lease termination fees. And once that is taken out, the actual EGI that was reported in the survey is $8,541,251. So slightly above the prior year 2022 total income that was reported. Now, also, and again, this is something that survey can be found on page, and this is for the year in 2023, page 46 of 73, and that is filled out. The board memo that we got back did not include, at least it looked like the columns were blank, or there was the wrong reporting year in those areas. So I don't know if that's reflective of what's on the board memos as well, but it is, when we submitted this package, visible and on there, and it's on page 46 of 73. So again, the total effective gross income is not 11.1 million in 2023. It's actually 8.5 million, 8,541,251. And the NOI, therefore, is not 8,924,337. It's actually 6,363,471 for calendar year 2023. Now, the county recreated the year-end 2023 column in E1, and it did go down by 400,000. They did say that they excluded the lease termination fee of $2.5 million, but it only brought their total NOI projection down by 400,000, which doesn't make sense to me. In addition, the county did not provide a test column because they indicated that there was some discrepancies in square footage vacancies that they could not determine We reached out to the county several times on this issue after receiving their memo and talking to the county, and asked for specifics that we could help alleviate their concerns, and we never got anything back. So it's hard for us to refute anything. This is something, again, I would very much like to urge the board to consider the validity of an owner certified rent roll, which we did provide in our appeal package, over apparent discrepancies that are observed in the tenancy based on the county reviewing CoStar. The actual vacancy of this property as of 1/1/2024 was 47%. You can find that rent roll on page 64 of 73. The county's vacancy that they were applying was 44%. So we both did use 28% in our as our stabilized vacancy in our analysis, as recommended by the guidelines, and then took an additional discount below the line. The NOIs for this property, the actual NOI that's been reported for this property, is significantly lower than what the county's current assessment is. It's over $2.5 million higher than in 2022, and the county's NOI is $2.1 million higher than the actual NOI reported at the property most recently in 2022. Again, we're not really sure why that there was not a test column that was taken by the county, again, over the discrepancies from the actual vacancy here, but there has been significant vacancies here. The property did have a one-time large termination fee of $2.6 million that should be not given consideration in column E when you're looking at kind of the historical trend of this property. It continues to struggle with vacancy and leasing tenants. And again, I know we've talked about this fact before, but the county is not considering any kind of lease or rental concessions, or really the actual net effective rent for the in-place tenants that is needed to attract and keep tenants and retain tenants there. So GSA had re-signed some leases as well for renewals. They have a number of abatements in place for 2024. There's going to be an estimated $1 million in rental concessions in 2024, and that's just not reflective in the current assessment for the property. So again, we strongly urge the board to consider the actual vacancy as indicated on the certified INE petitioner rent roll as of the 1/1/2024 lien date. And we're happy to take any questions that the board has. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Kelly, for the county, please.
Thank you. Good morning, board members, Mr. Warren. I am presenting this case on behalf of Mr. Peralta. And before I go into the actual appeal, I do want to note that there are a few corrections I want to identify that are on the summary sheet. The office rent is incorrectly listed at $42 a square foot, when on the worksheet on page 16 of the packet, it shows $42.50 was used. This does not affect the value that's listed in the box or the overall valuation. The vacancy office should be listed as $41 and not $44. And the retail is 25, or should be 25.50 and not 24.77 is listed. Again, these values that are outside the box are descriptive in nature, and they don't change the values that are inside of the calculations. I just wanted to make sure that those were noted. I also want to note that while I'm not the original appraiser, I've made a few adjustments to the original recommendation, and we'll walk through some of that in detail. Most notably, the correction to NLA and the vacant square footage as of January 1. I do concede with Mr. Warren that on this point, that the imputed vacant square footage was, to me, lower than what should have been. If I could direct you to the summary sheet, and I can walk you across it right now just so that I can make sure that you're following. If you look at column D, we initially used 387,649 square feet as the net leasable area. In my review of this property, I am using what the property typically reports, and that's the 381,194 square feet for the net leasable area. And for the vacant office square footage, it's reported at 162,477 in the original valuation. I am actually agreeing with the Mr. Warren and the pro forma and using 173,136. So with those changes, or at least looking at those values as listed or identified, it does change the value and does reduce it slightly. The total value would be 109,933,612, and that's unrounded, with an excess vacancy deduction of 9,515,400, resulting in a total value of 100,418,200. And this correction was made to reflect the consistent reporting of the property for NLA and acknowledging that the rent roll, albeit it doesn't clearly provide some of the suite listings as identified as by Mr. Peralta, it does remove the argument from the agent and the department. And I did want to at least acknowledge those items. And in all fairness, as Mr. Warren pointed out, he did try to provide additional information to the department. And unfortunately, some of that was missed due to staff being out of the office for various reasons. Now, the subject property is 1310 North Courthouse Road. It's a 12-story office building with approximately 386,000 square feet of office space. It's built in 1983 and currently has an effective age of 1998. It is located in the Arlington Courthouse submarket. It is situated or located one block from the courthouse metro station and Route 50. So it is in a very desirable location. And some of its amenities include a brand new fitness center, locker rooms, a spacious lounge areas, as well as a tree-lined plaza. The property was extensively renovated in 2018 and is partly created due to creation of a 2-story town hall amenity space, a reskinning of the facade on the 8th and 9th floors, and the ground floor main lobby, which now includes a real-time transit screen and a coffee shop. Now, the department's EA, or the effective age, should be reviewed a little more closely. I did not get a chance to look at that or visit the property, but I am using the original effective age as provided by by Mr. Peralta. Now, if I can refer back to the summary sheet, as noted, we have made adjustments to the NLA, and we are conceding on the vacant office square footage. The income the department used was $42 a square foot for the leased space and $44 for the vacant office space. Now, if you deduct 28%, which is what we use for the vacancy as of January 1, that $42 and $44 has a net effective rent of $30.24 per square foot and $31.68 per square foot, respectively. The rent roll shows an average leased office space square footage of $47.49 per square foot. Now, I do want to note that I'll walk you through column E1 a little bit. This property is reporting actuals. It's listed by Mr. Peralta, and we are imputing the agent's vacant office square footage. And we've done this in the past to compare apples to apples. Again, when we are valuing a property, we're looking at the gross potential, and you can't do that if you're only providing what the actuals were for the property. So the best way to reconcile that is to use the gross potential income, use the vacant office space as is, and with the appropriate dollar rate, and then determine what that gross potential income is, and then deduct the 28% or the vacancy amount. Now, expenses in this case, I want to walk through line item 18. As you note there, we are compared to what the January 1 value was or what the estimate was, we are very, very we are estimating a much higher total operating expenses than what the property incurred, 2.3, 2.6, 2.5, and even 2.1 for 2023. We have given the property $3 million or estimated $3 million as fair, using the $8 per square foot rate for that. Now, with my adjustments to this particular case, it did lower that $3 million to $2.9 million. So we still are much higher than what was reported. Now, this does bring down the NOI, which is this is really kind of what we're identifying here as the overall issue. And I just also want to note that the January 1 assessment was already 15.7% lower than what it was from last year. And with my proposed reduction today, we're at 17.6 lower than what was reported for what was the value for 2023. Again, I believe that this change to the department's recommendation is fair and equitable, and recommend that we reduce the property to $100 million, $418,200 as fair. And I welcome any questions from the board. Thank you.
Okay. All right, this is a lot of information to be given to us, just on a whim with.
I
no
know,
information.
I'm sorry.
So, do you have the corrected I&E sheet?
I have a corrected test sheet.
Okay. Are you in the building?
No, I'm not in the building. I can share it via email, but no, I'm not in the building.
And she put it up on the screen.
Look, it's too, I can't read it
Too
here.
many.
No, I need a copy of it. I can't just go with what you're saying here. I just tried to do it manually and, I'm having trouble doing that. So can you send it to somebody who is in the building and they can print out 5 copies?
I can send it to Rosa.
Well, she's here running a meeting. Is there anybody else in the real estate department?
If you give me a second, I can note. I'm sorry, I'm not in the office. I don't know who's there, but if you give me a second, I can try to find someone. I can also walk through each item as well. There wasn't a test, there was not a test created for this property. Again, I'm also looking.
I understand that. I'm just trying to get the numbers that you're coming up with. I mean, you're talking about almost 6,000 square feet on one category and over 10,000 on the vacant property. So I think, we need to see that. Has Mr. Warren seen this? Or is this the first time that he's hearing this too?
I got it this morning about an hour ahead. So I am looking at it right now.
Okay, all right. Then what we're gonna have to do here, then we're gonna pause. We're at questions. Miss Kelly, if you can get on the horn and find out if there's somebody upstairs that can bring us down 5 copies,
Sure, thank you.
and we'll come back to this case. I mean, this is not fair to the appellant to just say, oh, here we got a new number of 109 million and don't know how we got to that. All right, Mr. Warren, I apologize for the inconvenience, but we want to make sure that we're being fair here. So we're gonna put you on the back burner.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, the second case, RPC 250010022 at 700 South Courthouse Road, has asked to withdraw. Is there any objection, Ms. Brodsky?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I will motion to accept the withdrawal. Do I have a second? Mr. Yates, in favor? I oppose. It's unanimous. The withdrawal is accepted. Since Ms. Kelly is on the line trying to work out the first case, let's move to the fourth case. Do we have Mr. Harmon? I thought I saw him logged in.
Yes, good morning.
Okay. You have your camera on? And then Ms. Ruskin will go ahead and roll it out.
Okay, so are we skipping over the third case?
Right, because we're going to come back to it. Although I guess.
May I add something? I'm going to be presenting on Rob's behalf.
For the first case?
For all 4 cases ending in 033, mine, which is 034, Rob's 035, and 036. I'm presenting on all 4 of those.
Okay, then we won't skip over. All right, so you're, okay, Mr. Harmon, then we're going in the order of the agenda?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, that's fine.
All right, so the next case on the agenda is the third case, RPC 16039-033, 1601 North 10th Street. Mr. Harmon, you can start with your 8 minutes and tell us about the property.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairwoman, members of the board. Lori, good morning. This is Roslyn Plaza Building C. It's part of the larger PDSP for Roslyn Plaza that was approved in early 2016. This property is a completely vacant office building that is entitled for redevelopment as part of that PDSP that includes over 1.8 million square feet of office, 550 apartment units, 200 hotel units, and 45,000 square feet of retail space. The Roslyn Plaza PDSP, this PDSP, of course, is phase development site plan. This means that the first phase must be built before the second phase is legally permissible. The first and second phases must be built before the third phase is legally permissible, and so on throughout the full 5 phases of this PDSP. In total, the 5 phases of this PDSP are estimated to take 25 years to complete once started. The purpose of a PDSP is to provide a guide for the coordinated redevelopment of large sites with a focus on land uses, utilities, transportation systems, and public facilities. And that's the county's definition of the purpose of a PDSP. So it's to provide an overall guidance of large site plan projects. A PDSP is a preliminary approval. Each phase still has to go through 4.1 approvals. The current assessment of the Roslyn Plaza PDSP was derived through the appeal process. We appealed in 2020 and through discussions with the DREA adopted the current assessment framework. The current assessment factors in the phasing of the project to the value by reducing the county's fully entitled land rate by 40% to account for the fact that only the first phase of this project is actually legally permissible as of the date of value. As of the date of value, phases 2 through 5 are not legally permissible because each phase requires the prior phase to be completed prior to starting on that phase. As of the date of value, phase 1 had not been constructed, had not been started, so phases 2 through 5 are just speculative future entitlements. So the 40% reduction the DREA adopted through discussions with us in 2020 is reflective of really 2 factors that are unique to this PDSP. First, only phase 1 was legally permissible as of the date of value. Phases 2 through 5 have no independent value because they're not legally permissible until phase 1 is completed. Secondly, the 40% reduction accounts for the fact that the PDSP will take a quarter century. It'll take 25 years estimated to complete once it is started. Again, each of the earlier phases can be seen almost as a proffer of sorts, completion of which then allows the owner to continue on to the next phase. Now, knowing the history of the PDSP and how and what the 40% reduction to the unencumbered land rate is, let's look at the land rate itself. We heard from the county in early June during the commercial briefing that they did not consider land sales. No land analysis was completed for 2024. This is not in compliance with Virginia law, nor generally accepted appraisal practice. When you're doing a sales comparison approach to value, recent sale comps in the submarket must be considered. There's no exception. For this property, there was a land sale comp just 2 blocks away that closed in November of 2023. The Roslyn Gateway site plan located at 1901 and 1911 North Fort Myer Drive sold November 14th of 2023 for $52 million. This is even listed as a sale comp in the county's 2024 guidelines. So they were aware of it. The county just failed to incorporate any analysis of this sale comp into the current land rates. The Roslyn Gateway was assessed for 2023 and 2024 at $64.5 million. Again, it sold last year for $52 million. So the current guideline land rates result in an assessment that is 24% greater than the actual fair market value of the land as indicated by an arm's length transaction. On pages 36 to 37 of the board pack, you will see details of the Roslyn Gateway sale. It was marketed beginning in early 2022. Teasers were sent to more than 5,000 qualified investors. The initial call for offers returned 10 bids. Best and final offers were requested from the best 3 bids, and the best offer received was ultimately accepted and closed. This meets the definition of a fair market value sale under Virginia law, which is a sale, of course, that is offered for sale by one who desires but is not obligated to sell it, and bought by one who is under no necessity of having it. So the Roslyn Gateway, just a couple of blocks away, less than a quarter mile away, sold November of last year for 80% of the current assessed value in a fair market arm's length transaction. What does that site plan consist of to make it comparable? Well, Roslyn Gateway is entitled for over 516,000 square feet of office space, 273 apartment units, and 148 hotel keys. So it is comparable to the subject in that it has entitlements for primarily office FAR, along with apartments and hotels, just as the subject does. Where does the reduction in value come from to account for the much lower sales price than the current assessment? We heard just yesterday the county state that multifamily land values have not decreased in the county, and the county stated they're actually doing very well. So it must be the reduction. If it's not coming from multifamily land, it's coming from the office FAR. That's the only remaining place that can account for this 80% lower, 80% sale price. That is what we have based our appeal on. The office FAR is worth less as of the date of value in 2024 than it was worth in 2020 or any year prior. That's the last time the county updated their land rates. And the effect of this is due to COVID. We know that office demand has plummeted, office rents have plummeted, concessions have increased, interest rates have impacted office values tremendously. The value today, as of the date of value, is simply not the same as it was pre-pandemic. Vacancy was 23% as of the date of value and has only increased throughout the year. So we know that built offices are worth far less than they were pre-pandemic. It stands to reason that office land is worth far less than it was pre-pandemic as well. This is exactly what the sale of the Roslyn Gateway site plan shows us. On page 35 of the appeal, you'll see the appellant's valuation of this property. We use the exact same format as the county, where you apply a land rate to each component of the PDSP, then derive a blended rate to attribute on a dirt square foot basis across each parcel. This methodology is utilized in order to attribute to each of the multiple parcels a pro rata share of the overall PDSP. We adjusted the office and retail land rate down from the county's pre-pandemic rate of $65 per square foot of FAR down to the Roslyn Gateway sale rate of $40.90 per square foot of FAR. That is the only adjustment that we made, and it results in a value for this parcel of $10,650,000. Now, this also doesn't factor in any of the excess income that Roslyn Gateway will generate, as it has 2 operating office buildings on it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Ruskin for the county.
Okay, thank you, board members. Thank you, Jordan. So basically, you're going to hear the same argument for this appeal and for the next 3 thereafter. They're basically all on the same concept. We're arguing the land here. So this is an approved this is an approved phase development site plan. It was approved back in 2016. You had the owner had to meet with the county, a lot of going back and forth. Money was involved, and a lot of money has already gone forward and to get this approval. And one of the things that was approved was the change in the zoning. Another thing is overall, you have this development includes 1.8 million in office square feet, 550 residential units. I think it's 200 hotel rooms, 45,000 square feet of retail. Now, this is the development that goes on for, I don't know, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, okay? But the owner had to go through an approval process to get the zoning changed and to get those numbers, get the numbers that they can develop. Now, yes, it's like a site plan within a site plan, each phase, okay? And as they go along, they can get things changed, but they still have to go off of what the original was approved for. And hence, that's why when you look at page 4, for our phase development valuation, we valued them, the office at $65 gross floor area, excuse me. We have valued the apartment at 86,000 per unit, you know, the retail or the hotel, so on and so forth. So we applied that, and then because this is a phased development, it's going to take time for these phases to occur. We discounted at 40%. It's a huge discount, 40%. All right. We're factoring in the fact that it's going to take time. They are going to have to go through as they get each phase approved. They're going to have to, you know, for each section, they're going to have to go, okay, well, what do we have left here? What can we do? What can we change some of the office to something else or vice versa? This is well known for phase development site plans. We feel that the value is correct. Now, this sale, the sale that we knew, November, was it 14th, I believe it closed. Okay, and Mr. Harmon goes into saying, oh, the meeting of minds occurred back in 2022. Anything can happen in that time frame, okay? Until this sale is recorded, we don't know what happens. Anything can change, okay? Then you have to allow us time to go through and review this sale, okay? To review it November 14th and then change land rates, you can't do that. Stop a steam engine, okay, or a freight train, whatever. You can't stop it. We start valuing back in September. So we feel that based on our current land rates for the office, the apartment, the retail, we feel that it's well justified at this time. And once again, we're discounting at 40%. I'm going to leave the rest of my time remaining for Deidre, if she's available.
The only thing I have to add is that we're already discounting this land for this property. I think Lori did a good job of covering the other items, and we're available for questions if any are from the board. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. Questions from board members? Mr. Metz.
For the appellant, you're suggesting that the assessment dropped 36% from what the department has billed the landowner for. And that's pretty much based on about 32% lower sales value for a comparable property 2 blocks away. That's where your number comes from. Okay, great. Now that I think about it, no, I'm going to save it for the other 3. This is special. Oh, just to make sure, this is an approved site plan, this building C parcel, and the others are still waiting approval, correct?
It does not have 4.1 approval. It has the broad PDSP approval.
Oh, so none of them.
No, they're not 4.1 approved. No, that you still have to go through 4.1 approval.
Right.
Yes.
Glad I asked. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Yates.
So to the county. So in theory, this property, this land could be sold to someone else under this current overall site plan.
Yes, sir. It can be sold.
But it could not be developed under, even as a new owner, until their phase 1 is completed.
So this phase development, it has to, the first step is getting the phase development approved. That's what occurred back in March 2016. All right, and that's when they said, okay, you can build this. And I listed out all those items. That's what you can build for this entire phase development. Then the next step is, as you go along for each phase and you develop it, you go back for another approval, because they're obviously not going to build 1.8 million office square, on the first phase. Okay, so they're going to have to go through and get approval as they go along to each phase. But the big part, the phase development, that had to go through an approval process, going before the board, and like I said, so on and so forth. And that was approved back March 12, 2016.
And can I just note something too, that part of the reason, yes, there are entitlements that are currently that have been approved. That's what the phase development it's almost staging. It's staging for these finalized site plans. And in that when that happens, we are discounting the land. But when each of those the reason why it's phased is because there can be a lot of changes in between the original approval of that versus when it's actually it's becomes finalized. And so we then discount the land and then we value it using this particular approach.
So to add some context as to the discount that was the result of discussions that we had with the DREA in 2020, it was to account for phase 5. Of course, you have to build phases 1 through 4 before you can get to phase 5. So if you were to sell phase 5, would
Okay,
it have the
Mr.
value of
Hartman,
$65 a
Mr.
foot?
Hartman, I'm sorry. Let's let Mr. Yates finish.
Okay.
The question was, if this property and this land at this value were sold, it is still restricted from anything until that first phase is done by a third party.
That's correct. Yes. Phase 1 has to happen, and it's a 588,000 square foot office.
We got the answer. Okay. I'm sorry. Do you have the answer?
I was just gonna say that if it's.
Okay, we're good. We're good. Thank you.
It's restricted.
Unless you go by right.
It's not though.
No, you can go by right. You don't have to use
Always
your
go
site
by
plan.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, so did you have a question?
I don't know that they are. Do you have a question, Barbara?
I'm sorry.
Oh, no,
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
didn't. I was,
Okay,
Oh,
no,
my
I didn't want
mark.
to cut you off there. Okay. So is there any other questions?
I guess I'll ask one.
Mr. Lawson?
Hey, Lori, on page 4, you have your chart and then you've allocated it out. And I've done the math on that chart. And I can't, it looks like your discount is 60%. But then when I do the math, I don't end up with the same figures that is the bottom line. So the 177 going to 110, that is multiplied by 0.6, but it's off a little bit. And each individual one, it looks like was discounted 60%. So I'm having trouble making those figures work out.
So the best way to follow it is you start at the top. The top section there where it's showing office, apartment, hotel, retail, what's approved, okay? And then we apply the land rates. So that's where you come up with the 177 million, all right? And now you follow down to the next section and it breaks those out for what the existing density is and what the additional proposed or additional PDSP, the phase development density is. Okay, and then the additional density that is discounted 40%, which leaves you with 60. And then it's allocated down below. Does that make sense?
Does the additional PDSP density include what's already there but will be raised?
Yes, because if you look, so once again, go back to the top. We're going to use office as the example. Office is approved for 1.8 million. Okay, now let's drop down to the next section. You'll see the existing density of office is 744,000. So the balance is the additional density, which is the
Right.
1,000. When you add those two together, you're going to come up with the 1.8. Okay, so the existing is being valued at its full amount. Okay, what's there right now? Then your additional, okay, what the additional that proposed or the phased part, and that's being valued in that middle section and it's being discounted 40%. So you can't just go, what's 60% of 177 million? You can't make that. You can't.
Lori, let me ask you a follow-up. So the existing, excuse me, the existing you're not doing a discount, but the existing is gonna go away, right?
It's gonna change over time. It will change. We don't know what that change is gonna be. So that's why we're valuing it based on the what was approved in 2016. So that's I mean, that's the basic nature of a phased development site plan. It's gonna change. We don't know what it's gonna change to as it goes along, but they were given these eggs that were put in their basket, and this is what they get. This is what they get. This is what they get to use, okay, as they go along.
Lori, I guess what I'm saying is your existing development will get raised. Therefore, in order to recapture what's existing, you have to go through the 4.1. Am I missing something?
Okay,
And so why wouldn't that also get a 40% discount?
well, no, it's existing. It's there. It exists right now, okay? The proposed is what's being discounted to 40%. Now, let's say they finish phase 1, okay? So obviously, this chart is going to change, okay? As phase 1 changes or is built, then those numbers will shift, all right? And some of them probably shift up to the existing, and then that will lower your numbers in the additional density section. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying, but I don't think it's accurate. In other words, you have an empty office building. That's going to get raised, thrown away. You're not going to have it anymore. So to reestablish that density, you have to do a 4.1.
Okay.
Unless you're going to keep some of the current buildings, which I don't think they are.
That's a
You
future.
have, I think the error that the county may have made, and I'm not being conclusive, but I think the existing also needs a discount. And I know you're not agreeing with that.
Your property that's that way, then we would have to discount 40% all of the properties across the county. We're not doing that. They exist.
No, you don't have to do that all across the county because the existing is going to go away. If you have a 4.1 approved across the street, right over there, then that's a 4.1. They can go pull a building permit. They cannot go pull a building permit for the existing or the additional because the existing will get raised.
May I ask Deidre to pipe in? Maybe she can explain it in a better manner than I'm obviously not getting my message across.
No, I think that the rationale that you provided or the reason that you provided is accurate in how we look at it. The existing density is valued at the current rates, the current land rates. And we only discount the future or the future development density. I know that there is we may not agree on that, but that is the process that we use. And I do understand your point on that.
I understand.
We'll come back to that.
That's good.
Okay, any other questions? No? Okay, Ms. Ross, can you take a minute to wrap up, please?
Yes, ma'am. Okay, I just want to state that this PDSP was approved. These are valuable entitlements. They can be sold onto a new buyer, and the buyer will assume these new developments that were approved. And as we go along through the phases and as they're built, yes, this sheet, our PDSP evaluation sheet will change as time moves on. For right now, this is the way it looks as it stands. We have 744,000 square feet of office that exist, 196 apartments that exist. Once again, this is something that occurs over time, so we're discounting it at 40%. Anything can change. Anything can happen. Who knows? Maybe the apartment or the office will be more valuable in the future. I don't know. We'll find out. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Harmon, if you take a minute to wrap up, sir?
Yes, thank you. There's a sale comp just a couple blocks away, sold for about $41 a square foot of office FAR. Just because it happened in November doesn't mean it shouldn't be considered. There's nothing in Virginia law that carves out an exception for November sales. The date of value is January 1st. Any sales that occur prior to that, even 6 weeks prior, need to be considered. The first phase of this 5-phase PDSP requires a nearly 600,000 square foot office building, along with multiple new roads be constructed. That is how it existed on the date of value, and that is what we are valuing. Any potential changes that may occur in the future are speculative, and the Supreme Court of Virginia has ruled in the Fruit Growers Express case that any future uses where the owner is capable but has not yet availed himself have been rejected on the ground that such changes are too uncertain and conjectural to be acceptable. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. All right, it's just among the board. Go ahead, Mr.
Let me make some comments first on Barnes' questioning. I thought it was a really good question, and it made me think a lot. And I think, turns out though, that I don't agree. I agree with the department's formulation that they're treating the improvements in this place exactly like other improvements, like last week at the Bank of America in Columbia and South Glebe, as site plan, and overtaken by events, commercial building, that's what's worth per square foot, and that's the end of it. And they only discounted, in this case, what's planned for addition to that. So I don't think having the entire potential that will be built over 25 years being discounted, only the, as I said, the improvement. So I ended up agreeing with the county. What I don't agree with the county is that, and we saw this last year a lot as well, it's true, this is a late sale in 6 weeks before the January 1st, 2024. In residential, there's hundreds and hundreds of sales per year. It's well established and well universally accepted that you go back in time. You don't take sales on New Year's Eve the day before. You've got to go back 6 months to 18 months. That's all fine, because there's so many sales and so much formulation and so many neighborhoods. Here, we've only heard of 4 sales totally in the entire calendar year of 2023, including this one. And I don't see any reason why the department can't analyze 4 sales. I think 4 is the correct number. Could be 3, could be 5, but that's it. And I don't see why the $60 square foot from 2022 couldn't be adjusted. I don't want to adjust it as the appellant does down to make it equal to Roslyn Gateway, which is a damn good comp, but it's only one. But I do think the $60 ought to be adjusted downward. And I can be challenged on my following statement. I would like to discount the $60 by 10%, not the 35-ish percent that the appellant goes, but it ought to be discounted for sure, because it's too easy to analyze with so few sales. That's what I got.
Right, and even if it couldn't have been done for January 1st, it could have been done,
Since.
during the process of appealing this. Because it is irrelevant.
Well,
Right.
Sure.
Right, because it might not have been resorting back. They might not have had it when they sent these out.
Yeah, well, good point. Does it take more than 6 weeks to record a commercial sale?
It's done immediately.
Yeah, it's 2 days kind of thing. Bring
Yeah.
it down to the courthouse and somebody gets to it and uploads it. That's the end of it. Yeah, I didn't think there'd be anything different.
All right. Mr. Lawson?
Yeah, I guess the question again is, so how much do we reduce?
No, that's exactly the question.
This side of the table? Where?
I think it's too high. I'm still trying to figure out what the adjustment is.
Yeah, I would like to have some solid rationale other than it feels good. It's not too much. It's not too little. It's Goldilocks just right.
The only solace I take is that the county has reduced things on the other phases 40%. That's a sizable number.
Well, it's more than reasonable. I mean,
Because it's an absolute
on
unknown.
both sides.
But
It doesn't affect.
Yeah, last year I voted to uphold the county is my recollection. Because I felt like this was a valuable zoning, comparable to Pentagon City. I've kind of changed based on what's happened this past year. I've kind of changed my mind. And I think there should be a reduction.
Because it's looking like a long-term trend office space. It's just
Yeah.
less value.
I mean, they're obviously going to have to change the approval. I mean, office is dead.
right, that's,
No one would build office today.
it's a lot of office.
I meant to ask if,
Oh, this first phase even, yeah, sure,
Right.
sure,
Yeah.
absolutely. But that's speculation on our part. I mean, I agree with you fully, but we don't know what the appellant's gonna do. I mean, they can just be wild and crazy and build office and hope that if they build it, they'll come.
yeah,
I still
the
think,
thing you have to do, Ken, is you have to do all the public improvements first. So you do phase one, whatever it is, and then you have to do the road improvements and all the other
Yeah.
county, we call them proffers.
Yeah.
And then you get to come back and do these other things.
these buildings.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, it takes. a long
Each one will
time.
come one at a
You know,
time.
and the
like-
appellant agreed 40% off, I mean, some years ago. I mean, there's a meeting of the minds there. I still don't like the $60 number, but if nobody can come up, whether it should be 50 or 55 or whatever, I'm going to accede because again, I don't like going on gut and common sense. I want to go on a data point. And again, the appellant could break in right now and say, well, the data point's Roslyn Gateway, duh. I mean, it's easy.
It is,
And
we
that
don't
is
know
a
the
factor.
accuracy of that.
Pardon me?
Well, we don't know the behind the scenes.
Yeah, what really is in that price that they came up with for the Roslyn Gateway? I mean, it is, and that's the concern I have too. It's one project, one property.
One.
What if we
It's
reduced,
not like.
Yeah.
just a thought, what if we reduced it by the cost of doing the 4.1? And that's if, the land bays in the future are not going to be these that exist now.
4.1 for all of it or
Why don't we
different
just
space?
reduce it 500 grand, because that's what a 4.1 will cost spread out. I'm just throwing that out. as
For the
an
entire
idea.
project? Or just the first phase, the infrastructure,
Or for this one when it comes time. But see, this one may not be, Ken, it may not be, what is this? 033, it might be 033, 034, part of 03, we don't know what it'll be. That's why I'm just,
no, good, I appreciate that.
yeah, it costs about 2 million to do a 4.1.
To get
So
something.
you're saying this portion for this one?
Yeah, I'm just throwing out an
Well, it's
idea.
certainly better than making this some lesser than $60 figure and having unequalized with everything else, all the other commercial properties in the entire, which are hundreds and hundreds countywide. I'd love to get something more practical.
That's where I hang up, that this cannot proceed until that first phase is done. Who knows what happens?
Oh, sure. Not doubt.
I'm originally, I was okay with the county the way it is, because we've seen those side plans and, hideous, but we don't really see, or we don't often see that there's a discount that the county has made. And I think in this case, we do have a rate discount. It may not be what the town wants, 60%, but, it's a chunk.
Sure.
We understand.
So what did you get at 60?
Well, we don't get long-term phase developments like this every day or every year either.
50?
No, 60,
I thought it was at 60.
65.
Let me,
No, it's a 40% discount from what it would have been.
At the 65.
uh,
And the thought I heard her say it was 65 and 45, 40% discount.
So that's not quite 10.
looking for something unique to this to lower it. Not going to affect everything.
I wonder how many 4.1s there will be.
If someone else owns this property, they could go forth under what their current, without being part of the plan. Right?
You asked that question.
Yeah, they could. And what I think Lawrence was saying is they can by what their buy right is.
But the buy right's low.
Yeah, but the FAR is so low, nobody in their right mind would do that. But otherwise, I think they have to follow through on.
Follow through if phase one happens.
Something.
If phase one doesn't happen, you got nothing.
That's unless you go amended. And so what if, I'm just throwing this out, what if it costs 8 million to do all the 4.1s? And so we make the 110 total, say 102, and then prorate it.
Wait, say that again?
Yeah, I understand.
I'm just guessing there'll be 5, 6 site plans.
I just didn't follow you.
Oh, in order to build this out, you're gonna have five or 6 4.1s.
They say 5.
So I'm saying, let's just say it's 8 million to get the final approvals. And we make the total 102 and then allocate it out pro rata amongst these parcels. Just a thought.
Just reduce it by the cost of each
Yeah,
4.1. Now, we've never done that before in other projects, though. We've never reduced the value by the,
but this is only.
oh, no, that's already, that's right. They've already been approved when they come to us.
Yeah.
This is prospective.
See that what they've,
In your
the
experience,
county has taken into account the time, but not the cost to get there. And that's just a thought,
Yeah,
because I do think this is overpriced.
you're just assuming that it's about $1.8 million for 4.1. Of course, 10 years from now, it could be 5 million. I mean, who
We
knows?
have to do a bunch of math.
But we're just going to go with today's.
Right, it's a second year, so.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, it comes to us with 4.1, so that's already baked into the value, and this isn't. Like,
Let's just let. Jose
Mr.
finish doing real proposal.
I'd have to do a lot of math.
no, well, what you're saying is that 1/5 of $8 million is what a 4.1 is about. The value, the cost, the burden.
The reason I say that, Ken, is Walsh Colucci and myself went back and studied site plans and the total cost. And that's what we came up with. It's anywhere between 1.5 and 2.5.
If you have something to compare us to, can you do the math for this RPC?
Oh. I've got to do it for all
All 5, yeah,
Now, take your,
that's easy.
what's the percentage, 102?
of the total.
Yeah. It's a little down and dirty, but
Yeah.
it works.
033.
Who says you wouldn't do any other?
I'm just saying, if you take the office and retail,
Oh, good, I could do this.
instead of 65, you reduce it by 2 million.
3, 5, 2, 5.
Yeah, I don't know how you get these phases. I'll just do them all.
Right, but, all right, so did you just hear what Jose said? Myself,
No.
you have to do all this math. He just did the change from, where you said this 10% off at 65, well, he did 60, so it's not quite 10%. He uses it, but for this RPC.
Well, the total of the whole site, I know, we would have to make the adjustments for each individual RPC, but instead of the total value for the whole, which comes to 110,304, which is page 4. they would reduce that amount by $2.2 million. Then we would have to make adjustments to the chief. But you see, that, I mean, it would affect the others.
I'm sorry.
It would affect the other RPCs also that are not being appealed. Was that $110 million 304 includes all the RPCs, not just the ones that are being appealed. Like I said, I was originally planning.
The FAR put it 65 and not $60, like I said.
I put 60 instead of 65.
So 65 is the rate. I remembered it as 60. Okay, shame on me. Well, all these RPCs on page 4, aren't they all assigned to one of these 5 phases in some fashion? We don't know which, where the spectrum goes and all of that. But we know, it seems to me, if we reduce the 110 to, you say 102, I'm rounding, couldn't we then just, we know that each phase is, 4,500,000 and 20 million, whatever hundred, just reduce the phases by the same percentage to add up to 65.
Can't do it in my way. I got 15,373,200.
It's 8%.
What I did is I took 15% of the 8
Or the 033.
million. Yeah, let me double check that.
We know which each phase is, what percentages of the currently assessed 110, 110, 304.
Yeah, so that's what, 15,373,200 is what I got.
And that was just by reducing the 8 million, reducing it by 8 million for the,
For the totality.
overtime.
I don't know. I think it's justifiable, but I'll see if everyone agrees.
So what is your deduction? $5 deduction is 8%. So it's 0.08 times
Jose, you proposed 8%.
I just
is 8.8 million reduction.
So they're pretty close.
Yeah,
So it's like,
so that's the difference. Well, his is real numbers. It's the best we can get versus you and I are just blue skying it.
Right.
I mean, I like it, but I'd rather go therefore with his.
Yes.
all right. Mr. Lawson, would you like to?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and make a motion. We reduce the assessment to 15,373,200 as justification for that proposal. I'm adding to the discount the county gave the ownership, the cost of doing the anticipated 4.1 final site plans. And then I have prorated it amongst various parcels. Is that adequate, Madam Chairman?
It is, okay, so we've got a motion, do we have a second?
Second,
Okay. Mr. Meskin, all in favor? Aye, opposed. It's unanimous. It's reduced to 15,373,200 based on a proration of the additional discount to cover the cost of getting the 4.1. Okay, next case on the agenda, and let the record show that Mr. Hoffman is doing this. There will be 6 members. Now, the RPC is 1603934, listed as North Kent Street. Mr. Harmon, you can start with your 8 minutes on this property. This parcel.
Okay, thank you. This case and the next 2 will all be, it's all part of the Roslyn Plaza PDSP, so same discussion. I would just add that the sale comp 2 blocks away at Roslyn Gateway sold for 80.7% of the current assessment. So would like to propose that as a potential reduction. Just take the current assessment and reduce it. Take 80.7% of that, and that would get you the market sale rate for that comparable. That's all I have. Just, phase 1 for this property, I guess, is the PDSP at Roslyn Plaza is a little more difficult because the first phase requires a 600,000 square foot office building. Whereas Roslyn Gateway, it's not a phase development, so they could build multifamily first. They could build a hotel first if they wished. That's all I have on that. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Ruskin?
Okay, thank you, board. So I want to reiterate that this is an approved phase development site plan. The owner had to go through steps to get this approval. They've already spent money. This can be sold to a new buyer, this phase development, okay? You ask if it's restricted. Well, you know, they're gonna have to get approval again for each one of those, but the approval is based off the original approval at the 1.8 million office space, the residential that was approved, the hotel. Okay, so basically they were given these sets of parameters, and they say, okay, going forth over the next 20 years, you can, if you use these, you can do whatever you want through those phase developments. That is valuable. Those are entitlements. They're valuable. They are transferable. They can't be sold. Okay. Now, I did not quite, and obviously, maybe this is a question for you. I don't know, during your question and answers, I didn't quite understand how you discounted this. Because the one thing I want to point out is when you discounted this, are you only discounting the 4 cases that are being heard today? Or are you discounting it across all those RPCs, which I might add, 2 of them have already been appealed and have already been settled a while ago. So now you're putting those out of equalization. We believe, we still stand, we're still very firm that the PDS valuation is valid the way it is. We've already discounted the future development. We understand things can happen, things can change, okay? That's why we discounted it, 40%. That's a considerable amount. And so that's, Deidre, if you wanted to add something, you're welcome to, otherwise I'm done.
I have nothing further to add. Thank you, Lori.
Okay. Any questions?
Minor one.
Mr. Yates?
You're questioning the discount. How did the county come up with just a 40% discount across the board?
The 40% discount was generated several years ago. We still need to do a new land valuation. And I believe it's based on what would they have to do in addition for each next site plan. As Barnes stated, the 2 million, what is it, 2 million for each approval. Okay.
Well,
So
this was also, I'm sorry, and I just wanted to add this. This was also due to a conversation had between Ms. Borman and the department, and it might have been Mr. Harmon as well, that there needed to be, we need to recognize the future density in this phase development piece. And so we then added that 40% adjustment.
But what you're saying too is the $2 million for the final approval in that phase, it's already factored into your 40%?
It is not. That is incorrect. The 40%, Mr. Yates, is if you look at phase 5, what could you sell phase 5 for as of the date of value? Knowing that phase 5, in order to utilize it, phases 1 through 4 have to be completed. So if somebody buys phase 5, they're not going to be able to use it at the earliest for 20 years. And that's speculative, requiring all these other density phases be built out. That's what the discount is. It's the time value, it's the speculation, the riskiness. If you have if you lend me $5 30 years in the future, what will I give you today for that? That's what it is. It's not to account for the 4.1 approvals.
Okay.
One last, one minor one to the county. You said the first phase requires 600,000 square feet of office be built?
588,000.
I did not say that.
How much?
588,000 square feet of office.
Before anything goes forward.
But of course,
Yeah, Harmon, has the ownership filed for a phase development site plan amendment?
Not that I'm aware of.
Mr. Metzger?
But that,
Oh,
That-
yes.
I'm asking maybe Mr. Lawson. Let's see who can answer this. I guess I'll start with Mr. Harmon. This office in phase one, this is not a 4.1. I mean, this is subject to change anytime, right? I mean, it's not, because
Used-
if you were required, you have a big problem ever getting the other phases, but go ahead.
It is required as of the date of value. This is legally what they're allowed to do as of the date of value. They can go back through the county zoning process, not 4.1 necessarily, but they'd have to go back to the county board and adjust the PDSP. That, of course, takes time, costs money. It's not fungible, and per Virginia law, it's what's in place as of the date of value. Any changes that have not been undertaken are considered too speculative.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Mr. Hoffman, do you have any questions? Mr.
I just want to make sure, because I missed something at the beginning. We're on RPC 033 right now, and then we're going to do 34, 35, 36 in that order.
34 right now.
We're on 34, and we're then 35, and then 36 after that.
Yeah.
You haven't already heard those cases. Okay. All right. That's it.
Okay, Ms. Ruskin, if you take a minute to wrap up then.
Thank you, Board. So basically, once again, the reason for the 40% discount is we're taking into consideration that this is going to occur over a long period of time. And when the buyer or the owner has entered into this phase development site plan, they know they know that anything can change, anything can happen. I mean, 2008 was still not, I mean, that's a long time, but still not that long ago. Anything can happen, ups and downs, swings. And so that's what this phase development allows them to fluctuate, if you will, ride that wave out. I'm finished. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harmon, if you take a minute to wrap up, please.
Yes, thank you. So I'll just share my screen briefly. This is phase one. This is per the county's board report. Phase one building, 275 foot tall, up to 588,000 square feet office. So that is not something that they can just adjust as they see fit. That is how it's required. That's the phase development site plan. All future phases come after this is built. Phase two can't break ground until phase one is completed. Phase one is this. The Supreme Court of Virginia says we have to value what's in place. Any future changes that may happen, those will be captured on future assessments. Now, the county seems to be intimating that we're saying this has no value at all. We've proposed value on all of these parcels. We're not saying they're worth $0. What we're saying is when market sales support lower land values, you need to apply those to other lands properties in the county. That's exactly what happened here. Roslyn Gateway sold for 81% of the current land rates in the county. That same ratio should be applied to these properties. Thank you.
Thank you both. Okay, it's just someone on the board.
Question. What I see in here is that the county board agenda item for this plan, phase plan, was in 2016. If that's correct, when was this approved? I didn't find that specifically. I'm just wondering, because 2016, Office World is not what Office World is today.
Yeah.
And to have to start with 588,000 square feet of office before any of the other phases take place with value.
But what we did with Pentagon City, we did, forget what it's called. They changed the name, but the lengthy retail, Pentagon Row, I think is what it was originally called. Well, we did that, but we did not use up our retail density. So we amended the phase development site plan, and they gave us a calculation that we have 400 feet of retail equals 1 residential unit, or whatever it was. I don't remember what it was. So that's obviously what these guys are gonna do. They're not gonna do an office building.
Yeah,
I'm just dumbfounded they haven't started that process yet. I was.
They're not ready to go. They're gonna wait till they're ready to go. And they'll do the first 4.1 and amend the phase development site plan simultaneously.
and get out of the 580,000 square.
And they'll
feet.
probably hit some of the public improvements.
Nonetheless, everybody agrees that they're assessing it correctly. It's 588 in phase one. And I don't care what we're gonna do next year, it's all fine. It's all about the land value, which is the essence of the appellant's appeal. It's not $65 an FAR foot. And I tend to agree with them and I think our internal compromise of picking some specific hard cost to offset our feel that it's too high is justified and reasonable. The appellant wants a much bigger discount than we're willing to provide, but I think it's appropriate that we provide what we see in hard numbers.
We have to go with what's on the books now. Having said that, my feeling is I question this project. Given that it's based on office and starting out that way, but that's what's approved today.
Sure,
That's what the county's basis.
sure. And the appellant doesn't disagree with that. The appellant's not complaining.
Yeah.
All right, so using your math, where are you on this?
4,406,800. I think it was 4% is what I reduced it by. No, it's 4% of the 8 million. 4,406,800. Then make that 900.
Right, yeah,
4,406,900 is where I.
yeah, no, that's right, of the 110, that's right, that's good math.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Same rationale.
go ahead.
I'll go ahead and make the motion. We reduce the assessment for this parcel to 4,406,900.
Go to second.
Second.
Okay, no, we got Mr. Metzger over there. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. This is reduced for same logic of the case to 4,406,900 even. Before we move to case 3, can we just get Mr. Warren back up there for a second?
Yeah, great.
Are you available August 20th?
Let me check.
Are we going to continue this?
Yes.
Could we ask questions before we continue? Because that way, maybe we could.
No.
No.
Okay, you are available?
I am, yes.
Okay, all right, I'm going to make a chair's decision. The test is here, but everybody does a lot of work. This needs to be put into the grid so you can compare it against all the other, as opposed to just a freestanding sheet. So I'm going to move this to the calendar to August 20th. We'll put it in the first case so you don't have to sit and wait. I apologize for the inconvenience, but based on just you getting it an hour before and us not seeing it,
Yeah, but
we need more time to do that. So
maybe
She's
we'll
probably
take it by
right.
events. Yeah, I mean, this is all.
August 20th,
She made it
first
really
on the agenda. That way you don't have to sit through the final cases here.
All right, thank you all.
Good call.
Okay. All right, next case is same cases here, but RPC 1603935, 1611 North Kent. Mr. Harmon, any additional comments on this?
Just briefly, I appreciate all the discussion and what you all have worked through and come up with. I just wanted to note that the first parcel that we heard, the reduction was 7.8% of the assessment, and the second one was only 4%. So I just wanted to, see if we can get those clarified at the 7.8% on the remaining cases. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Roskin? Can you turn your microphone on, please?
I want to make clear that this is a site plan, just like anything else that we're treating. It's, this is the first stage of it, the phase development. It had to go through approval. And even though Mr. Harmon pointed out the other one was reduced 7 point whatever percentage that was, and this one is 4%. I just want to reiterate that throwing it out of equalization for all of the RPCs that are involved in this PDSP project. There are 1, 2, 3, 2, 6, 8. There's 11 parcels here. Okay. And that I want to say is that once again, this can be sold, this can be transferred to a new buyer. They don't have to start all over again in the phase development process. They already have their approval, okay, for what they can build. And when they start on their first phase, they can always go back to the board and make a change, okay? But they did get the first hard part done. That was getting this PDSP off the ground. That was approved March 12th, 2016. Mr. Yates was asking about so that's pretty much it. Deidre, do you want to add anything?
No, Lori, I don't have anything to add. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions from board members while we're doing all of that?
I just wanted to. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Mr. Matt.
Mr. Harmon, what we're doing here so far is that we're, of the 4 phases, we're allocating a total amount of money on a prorated share of what each of the 4 phases contributed to the total amount of 110 million plus. And that's why the first was 7.8%, one was 4%, because the first phase is almost double the second phase. So that's what we plan to go throughout. Now, have I missed your point, or do you agree with me? I missed what you said.
Based on the way that the county has set up the assessment, what they do is they come up with a total PDSP value. And then in order to allocate it, since we all run into the same issue of which parcel is phase 1, phase 2, and so on, is they divide that total PDSP value by the total dirt square feet at the site. And then they allocate it by parcel based on each parcel's dirt square feet. So the reduction should be the same for all parcels if the reduction is made from that 110 million total value.
We're prorating against the
We made
value
it
of each of those parts.
Yeah, we made it 102 instead of 110. And now we're prorating it.
So that 102 million and you can see the total lot size square foot, the 253,152 at the
Right.
bottom of the assessment. So if you divide the 102,304,066 into that 253,152, you get a dirt square foot value of $404. And that's my understanding based on the way the current assessment is that's the value that you would apply to the lot size of each of the parcels.
What I have been doing is taking the lot size divided by 253,152 and reducing it by that amount. So
Okay,
I could have also done it the way you suggested, but
part of the issue with that, to just glom on to the county's point of out of equalization, the county has included parcels that are valued via the income approach in that total lot size. So by doing it as a proportion of the total lot size, you're reducing the actual impact on each of the land parcels. So for instance, London House Apartments, the county has a value there of 17.7 million. That's not what they valued it as. They did an income approach on that property. They came up with 67 million for that properties. And there's a couple of operating office properties in that list. So the county's already assessed them out of equalization. So for that reason, I would ask if the board would consider, instead of taking each parcel's lot size as a portion of the total lot size, to instead change the dirt square foot rate and multiply that by each parcel's
Okay.
size.
Yeah, okay, we're done with that. either need to be consistent with what we're doing.
Yeah, and
Change the plan.
these four RPCs they're vacant. They're not the London House where it's an operating facility.
So this is right.
Yeah.
All right, so Mr. Lawson, what do we? or-
Um,
I'm sorry.
yeah, I came up
Hold
with,
on, hold on, hold on.
sorry.
Any final comments, Ms. Ruskin?
Yes, ma'am. I just want to reiterate that this is valued across the board as a phase development site plan. It was valued across 11 parcels. And once that's all I can add.
Okay, Mr. Harmony, take a minute to wrap up, please.
Yes, thank you. So just to clarify on the county's point, Rosslyn Plaza North is valued via the income approach as an existing office building. So that's for the parcels that are not valued uniformly on a land square foot basis. Same thing with London House Apartments and Normandy House Apartments. So that's 6 of the 11 that the county has listed are not actually valued on this land square foot basis. With that, I'd request again that the dirt square foot value of $435 that the county's used be reduced by the $8 million. It'd be $404 per dirt square foot, and then multiply that by each specific parcel's size. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, now you can go ahead.
Yeah, what I came up with was 16,872,100.
62 million.
16,
Oh, good.
872,100.
From the original 20?
Let me do it.
About 19% of the total.
Yes, I got 8. It was like 8.
I can only go to 2 decimal points. I don't know if it's plus or minus 19, but it's close.
If I took 7% only, it would be 19.
No, it's not 7%. Again, it's about 19%.
Wait, say that again?
It's 19% of the 8 million.
Yeah, I think Burns is wrong. I think that's too high.
Yeah, I'm double checking. I've got it at 18%.
And why do we have an 80?
20 million is 18% of 110 million.
Yep, I'm doing that wrong.
Yeah.
So that would be
It's 18 point something percent of 8
of
million.
the 8 million. Yep. Yep, you're right. Yeah, this thing sometimes messes up. I apologize. It's taking me a little longer to do this. 18.
Can I comment on to the board while we're
Sure.
waiting on Barnes? I don't see anything wrong with going back and just applying $404 a square foot to the dirt, as Jordan suggested. It does the same thing, what we're trying to do. It's just a cleaner calculation. It's just reducing it down to the basics. And we don't have to, do this pro rata allocation math where it looks like we've already made some mistakes on the past cases. So, I mean, I've listened to every case starting at 33. I just came in late, but I would support going back and just running through it all at $404 a dirt foot, and we're going to end up with a more accurate result.
It's within $50, 50,000. Yes.
Can I respond to Greg?
Go ahead, yeah.
Greg, what you might have missed is that we're reluctant to change the value of FAR fee. And here, what the appellant and you are suggesting is that we change it for these 4 in front of us and not for the rest. And the rest, 2 of which we've already looked at in past weeks, would throw not only the FAR foot out of whack countywide just on this one 250,000 square foot parcel. And that's why instead we've selected to look at future costs, hard costs,
Yeah.
to develop a site plan for these four that are in front of us. That's why we selected to do it this way.
Yeah, I got that. And look, I voted in favor of Barnes's motion because the number came out to effectively what I had. I just took a different path to it. I mean, I've got the PDSP in at 102,500.
Yes.
And I think you guys were talking about 102 range as well. So how we get to that and pro rata is just a matter of how simple we want to make this math. I think we all agree that they need to reshuffle the deck on the entitlements and go through a process. And at 102.5, where I got that is, not to go back in time and kind of re-argue these cases again because we were so close. But Penzance paid $40.90 an FAR foot, fully understanding where things are at in the market, what the discount for the future is, and all that, all the risk associated with the re-entitlement. So I just put $41 an FAR foot on 2.5 million square feet, knowing that the mix is going to change over time from 2016 to whenever things start getting developed. It's going to be a negotiation with the county through a process, but probably the overall square footage is not, because you're not going to all of a sudden get extra height in the flight path of DCA, or your envelope and your FAR is going to be the same. So Penzance is smart enough to figure out that I'm getting a pretty good value at $40 a foot. It would be too much to pay it at 80. Seller's not going to sell it for $10 a foot. 41 seems right where it landed on the comp, and it's the only comp we have for this site. So I just applied it across everything. I came up with 102,500 for the entire PDSP value.
Right, and what were you using, Barnes?
I just reduced by 8 million.
So he ended up at the same spot.
Right, no, I understand that.
Yeah, I was just taking the percent of the totality times 8 million.
Would you come up with this one?
On this one, I came up with 19,135,700. And I'm probably going to take off some from what Greg got.
Barnes, that sounds right. I mean, the last two cases you've been within 1 or 2% of where I was at, and so that 19 million sounds right.
Okay, what was your number?
19,135,700.
And again, we're going for rationale and not dollars.
Yeah, I mean, it helps when two separate rationales meet at roughly the same point.
Your system is a nice test for us.
Yeah,
We did.
yeah.
That's right, that's right.
I mean, it tracks back to the sale comp.
Okay, Mr. Lawson.
Yeah. Hey, Greg, I want you to double check case 301, parcel 034. If you could double check me on that one.
Yeah, I mean, you're at 4.4 and I was at 4.3.
Okay,
So
yeah. We're good.
Yeah.
Okay. On this parcel, I suggest, or I make a motion, we reduce the assessed value to 19,135,700.
Okay, do you have a second? Yes. Motion second by Mr. Colorado, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. Parcel ending 035 is reduced to 19,135,700. Moving to the last parcel, RPC 1603936. This is the 1621 North Kent. Mr. Harmon, do you have anything additional to say in here?
Nothing further on this one. Thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Roskin, do you have anything additional? Turn your camera or your microphone on. It would help us to hear you.
My apologies. I'm doing this on my phone. I do not have anything additional. If Deidre wants to speak, do so.
Okay.
I don't have anything additional to add. Thank you.
No additional questions or anything, okay? We're gonna suspend the 1-minute wrap-ups then. Go ahead, Mr. Lawson. What do you got on that?
Sorry, I've got to redo this.
Want you to be right.
I came up with 17,508.
Is your factor 17%?
Mhm.
It can't be lower than the last one, which was 19%, 18%.
That comes up, that comes up.
That's correct.
Yeah.
The last one was 20 million and a half. This one's over 21 million.
This was 18.
Oh, am I on the wrong one?
What's your number again?
I came up with
36.
17,508, 200.
And Mr. Hoffman, in your test, what do you got in your test column, please?
17,527.
Okay, Mr. Lawson.
I go ahead and make a motion. We reduce the assessment to 17,508,200.
Second. Okay, motion, second by Mr. Penaranda. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, this is unanimous as well. Parcel ending 036 is reduced to 17,508,000.
Yeah.
That completes the agenda. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you all.
Thank you, board, for your patience. Thank you, Jordan.
All right. If Mr. Dubay wants to talk to us for a few minutes and talk to us about caseload.
Yes, thank you. I just want to provide an update. We apologize for the case today with the late change. The recommendation going forward needs to be that the case be postponed from the county's perspective, is so that you guys can review that information. So we do apologize for the late change, but appreciate the fact that we work with Mr. Warren week in and week out, exchanging a ton of information, and we were trying to get that one right. So that's why that change did come through. But agree with the postponement. So a case update, we have 143 cases left to process, and where we were last year, August 7th, we were at 162 cases. So we are ahead on that front. We're still around 29 cases over capacity of the remaining schedule. But that was worse last year. I think we were around 42 cases over capacity at this time in looking at last year. So in monitoring that and looking at the cases going forward, we are expecting that the capacity will meet what's left as cases drop off. We still, as you can see today, we get late withdrawals that affect our schedule, but we do everything that we can to try to work around that and stay informed as much as we can from the agents if that case is actually going to hold or not. So we're continuing to work through that, but we have around 143 left to process that the appraisers have right now.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Anybody else got anything?
Can I ask Derek a quick question? Hey, Derek, did Ditmar file on all their properties again?
I don't believe so, no.
They've learned.
Yeah.
Their silence has been.
Oh, sorry.
There's still a lot to come, but I don't believe so.
Anybody else got anything? No? All right, then we will stand adjourned at 10:40, reconvene next Tuesday, August 6th. It's a virtual meeting for everyone at 9 a.m.
Thank you.